The following is a presentation of the Pro Wrestling Report. Television, radio, internet, the world. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the post-show of WWE RAW here on Blog Talk Radio from the Pro Wrestling Report. Damian Nelson coming here from the Pro Wrestling Report studios. We are live on Monday night, May 9, 2011. We're going to be talking about WWE RAW and WWE Tough Enough, where we saw two eliminations tonight. RAW that I guess you could just call unique tonight, with several new stars getting pushed and several new stars being talked about, matches made for Over the Limit, which is in just 2 weeks on pay-per-view, and so much more. We're going to be taking your phone calls, ladies and gentlemen. You can join us. The number is 347-996-5278. Again, that's 347-996-5278. We're also on Twitter. Our Twitter username is @PWRShow. @PWRShow on Twitter, where we have an amazing amount of comments on tonight's Raw. We'll get to some of those here during the post-show. Also on Facebook, some specific questions we asked you about WWE Raw tonight, Dolph Ziggler, Karma, and more. Facebook.com/Pro Wrestling Report. Facebook.com/Pro Wrestling Report. And finally, here on Blog Talk Radio, it's the chat room. Just click on the Chat Now link here on our Blog Talk Radio page and join the discussion. We'll reference some of those comments throughout the episode. I'm joined here by the opinionist of the Pro Wrestling Report, David Octavius of Tiberius, the alleged Wall of Famer hero. And tonight's Raw was a bit of a bore fest at times, with focus on stars such as R-Truth, but continuing focus on Michael Cole and Jerry Lawler. David Hero, welcome to the program. Welcome to the post-show. Your overall thought on WWE Raw tonight before we get into the specifics of the 2-hour broadcast.
Tonight's show, uneventful, I guess. I mean, they had a chance to make everything seem like The Miz has a chance going into the next pay-per-view, and they blew that out of the water, and now they're going to bore us with some more Cole and Lawler, and just all the colorful remarks throughout the evening. Just interesting.
Colorful remarks. Words well chosen, because a lot of people had a lot to say about some of those remarks that occurred tonight on WWE Raw. David, let's get into the specifics and the highlights of tonight. A number one contenders match to end the show, which was between Alberto Del Rio, The Miz, and Rey Mysterio. Earlier in the night, we saw those three men in the ring, in addition to R-Truth and the general manager chiming in and making that match a three-way match for the number one contender spot for John Cena at Over the Limit. The Miz winning that matchup and R-Truth attacking Rey Mysterio after that matchup. I thought this was a well-done story over the course of the 2 hours, because you sort of, while it was obvious, you had some intrigue that was built, at least to some degree, over what R-Truth would do and react to by being eliminated or being excluded from that matchup. And then I think it was quite obvious that The Miz would be the man winning and going into Over the Limit to take on John Cena in what we would find out to be an I Quit match.
You know, I guess at one point I was kind of cheering that Rey Mysterio was going to win the match.
Really?
I think that a Mysterio John Cena match could be interesting. I think the fans would be interested in something like that. That way, it also keeps the Miz out of the way of getting annihilated at the pay-per-view. And now, of course, it's an I Quit match. Hey, I'm still that trade's still on the table. You can still trade for the Miz. You just got to get legal to clear it, because I really think he needs to be on your team right now.
Of course,
especially going into the next pay-per-view.
Referring to the PWR draft, the fantasy draft. Now, there's some controversy, David Hero, because Sylvan tells me that because John Morrison is legitimately injured and will be out for several months, I get to choose a replacement until Morrison is back in action. And there's some confusion on that. Sylvan is pretty sure that is indeed permitted. But we're going to have details on that on this Wednesday's ESPN radio show. Again, we are live each and every Monday night, regardless of our ESPN radio schedule. This week, we're going to be on 540 ESPN radio Wednesday night. So be sure to check the schedule at pwrshow.com to find out when we're going to be broadcasting in. David, here I got to say, doing this post show, while we enjoy it as much as we do, It is also the most popular sports show on Blog Talk Radio as we speak.
Well, that's tremendous. I mean, PWR show coming live after Raw doesn't get much better than that.
It was a night where we saw the refreshing, if you will, of the story between Michael Cole and Jerry Lawler. David,
there's nothing refreshing about that.
I'm just done. I'm absolutely done with this story. I don't give a damn anymore about Michael Cole and Jerry Lawler. Just none. And as I said last week, the moment I heard Michael Cole's voice, I was done. I'm like, oh, man, I just don't feel like listening to this guy for 2 hours. It is beyond the point of entertainment. It is beyond the point of annoyance, whereas you're intrigued as to what might be going on. It's at the point of obnoxiousness to a point where it makes the show unbearable at times.
It's not, yeah, you're right. It's not fun because all the energy of the show is going to Michael Cole.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
they got two
Michael
segments
Cole,
tonight.
Yeah. Isn't it funny how he gets 2 segments, long segments, and The Miz, the former WWE champion, is just a regular guy with a tucked-in T-shirt in his tights.
Why are you hung up on that? A regular guy with tucked-in T-shirts on the types that you thought was so great that you had to screw me out of him in the PWR draft.
What I'm saying is that they feel it's important to invest more time and money into Michael Cole than into someone like the Miz. I mean, put it this way: R-Truth is now getting more TV love than the Miz. This is just bad overall for everyone, including Super Friends.
I never thought there'd be the day where you'd be cheering or rooting for seeing more Miz on WWE programming.
I don't know if I'm really cheering for him. I'm just saying, damn, let's get something rolling here. I don't like the fact that he's in an I Quit match. That is bad. That is just, why must it be an I Quit match? Why don't you make it like a cage match or a Hell in a Cell?
I Quit's almost like the final step in a feud, you would say, right?
Yeah, which means it's almost over with for the Miz. Mm-hmm.
You're not making it very attractive for me to pick him or take your offer of a trade.
But you love him regardless. You're that unconditional Miz love.
No, Alex Riley.
No, but you do too. You guys partied together, That's how Riley got in trouble the first time.
It happens to the best of us. But anyway, still talking about WWE RAW. You said a colorful selection of characters today on Raw.
Yeah.
And, here are some of the quotes that I think came out of that first segment that are worth talking about. And we're going to be taking your phone calls in just a minute. We've got a bunch of you on hold right now. The number to call in if you're listening live on Blog Talk Radio Monday night, May 9th, after WWE Raw, is 347-996-5278, 347-996-5278. But some of those quotes, David Hero, from that opening segment, and I'll just read them off. And I quote, Taco Bell parking lot, hospital food, Mexican fence jumper, day laborers.
That ain't right.
And if you kick my cat, I'll kick your dog. David, this one was all over the place. And I would say R-Truth did not shine in this opening promo on Raw tonight.
I don't know about that. I mean, the stuff he was given, well, yeah. I mean, he definitely is coming across now as the angry guy. And
the angry what?
The angry guy.
You can say it, the angry black man.
I don't need to say it because that's not how I'm gonna classify it. He's just being angry. He feels like he's been passed over.
But he feels that he is a guy, right?
He feels that he's been pigeonholed into being, the hip hop what's up guy, And the fact of the matter is, that's how he got over. That's
right.
That's what worked for him. But I will say this: I find something unique and different about what they're doing with him right now, and I think.
Going on a limb here, aren't you?
It has potential to work. I mean, it's almost like a Bizarro World Ken Anderson asshole thing, is what it is.
It was, unique. And a brawl at the end, Rey Mysterio standing tall at the end of that beginning promo. I got to give props to Rey Mysterio. I like the little Raw logo on the back of his mask. That was fun. Nice little detail, nice little touch there. And there's been a lot of discussion about the reset of WWE, the new WWE, if you will, and the building of new stars. And what's, I think, very obvious right now is so much time being given to an R-Truth. So many time I think you'd still classify Miz, Alberto Del Rio in that new star category. And during and I hate to use these words because they come up all too often, but during the Attitude Era, they were able to still build these guys but not make them the focal point of an entire show. The secondary talent and the talent that moved up to the next step got built within whatever was happening surrounding The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Triple H, and whoever else it might have been. Now they're shoved down our throats, David Hero, and it's a matter of shoved down our throats to the point where people are making decisions to potentially not watch the entire program due to their lack of interest for the star of the month.
Well, and then, of course, when you give us, 12 minutes of Michael Cole, who people aren't paying to see, yeah, I mean, I was watching the Twitter timelines tonight, and a lot of people kept saying Raw sucks, Raw is boring, I'm going to change the channel.
Yeah.
You know what? They need to pay attention to that.
I wonder if, and I'm not at this point yet, but I almost, maybe I'm going to start watching the event on NBC instead of Raw and watching Raw on DVR. I mean, at the end of today, last week was fun. It was special. It was The Rock. It was the birthday party. It was the celebration. And obviously a lot of intrigue there. But tonight, at the end of the day, they made a match for Over the Limit. And that's really all they did.
Which is in a couple weeks, right?
Absolutely, in 2 weeks' time, I believe. On our Facebook page, we asked you the question because we saw her again tonight. Karma, again in WWE on Raw, attacking random divas. She did it on Smackdown last Friday as well, David Hero. And speaking of Smackdown last Friday, I want to remind all of you the big news about Christian losing the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. We spoke about that on a very special edition of the Pro Wrestling Report Primetime last Friday. So be sure to check that out, available at our website, pwrshow.com, our website, pwrshow.com, our opinions on the situation with Christian. And David Hero, I got to say, since Friday's SmackDown and then since tonight where we saw a SmackDown rebound, which is rare, I think it's becoming more obvious that this was not a simple transition situation, putting the championship gold around the waist of Christian.
No, I mean, taking it off Christian and putting it on Orton. I mean, I think they're definitely going to build Christian up into a guy that can chase and maybe eventually beat Randy Orton. But I think it was for the betterment of Christian's character to drop the belt so quick. Because look at the fan support he's gotten since then.
Which I think it was. You notice that few seconds that Jerry Lawler and Josh Matthews spent after that SmackDown rebound, basically justifying the move to the WWE fans by saying the fans on SmackDown wanted Randy Orton. They chose Randy Orton. I found that a very interesting statement to make to your audience from WWE. I really found that as a justification statement for the move of taking the title off Christian.
Yeah, I mean, considering the fans had to choose between Randy Orton, Mark Henry, and the Great Khali.
Yeah, is there really a choice there? Yeah, exactly.
It's like, come on. It's like, are you kidding me? Yeah. But, I mean, and they also made the comment how they were rebuilding or trying to make SmackDown more competitive with Raw. They even mentioned that. So it's just interesting how they are going to they're definitely going to try to build the brand around Randy Orton. He's the biggest star on that side, on the blue team. And you know what? Let's just see what happens. Let's not criticize it so quick, which is what I normally like to do. But after watching how it played out, Christian, it was a good match. It was a great finish. And it wasn't that Randy Orton really beat Christian. It was more like Christian just made one mistake and he beat himself. So it wasn't like, he got the RKO in the middle of the ring on him, after all of his other big moves. It was out of nowhere.
As we were talking about Karma, who appeared on SmackDown last Friday, also on Raw tonight. And as we had talked about for a couple of weeks, she's going after all the divas in WWE. And
No. Eve went after Karma first.
Well,
all Karma did was get in the ring, and Eve went to try to hit her with a clothesline, and it backfired on her.
Well, we did ask our fans on Facebook. Again, our Facebook page can be found at facebook.com/ProWrestlingReport. Thoughts on Karma so far in WWE? Jim Rogers saying he wants to see her in the ring with Beth Phoenix, and about 7 other people agreeing with that statement. Amy Roberts saying so far so good. She needs a match soon, though. Ben Christner asking, is she going to have an actual match or just squash divas? And going on, Luke Henderson saying, I like the way they're building her without rushing her into a match. Get fans comfortable with the idea. She can destroy anyone, then put her in a match, and slowly build from squashes to longer matches each time out. Build to a big match at SummerSlam with Beth or Natalya or Gail Kim, someone who can actually wrestle. Very good statement there by Luke Henderson. David Hero, your opinion on the build of Karma so far in WWE?
I think they're doing it right, and for some reason I think you're going to see Karma team up with Kelly Kelly.
Really?
I could just see those two being a team together. Yeah, for some reason, I just, the last couple of weeks, she's come out there when Kelly Kelly is out there. It's almost like, she's drawn to her for some reason or for something.
That's a good point. Something I hadn't noticed. Good point.
So, I can see Karma, befriending Kelly Kelly, and it could be interesting.
Reference to a match of Karma. Ray Sanders on Facebook, our final statement here, our final comment we're going to read, rather, is apparently nobody saw Karma versus Gail Kim in TNA. Those matches were great. And I would venture to say that a vast majority of the WWE audience certainly has no idea that those matches ever took place or how great or good they were and how those two built the Knockouts division over in TNA Wrestling.
Yeah, Gail Kim and Austin Kong at the time, they were main eventing some impacts. They were closing the shows on house shows as well. They were definitely high-impact matches, great matches, high-ratings matches as well. Who knows if Vince is going to want to pair up Gail with Karma. I think he'd be crazy if he didn't, because Gail can help her get over more with the current fans. But, we'll see what happens.
This is the post-show for WWE RAW here exclusively on Blog Talk Radio. Damian Nelson along with David Hero. We're talking about WWE RAW from tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about Tough Enough as well. We're going to take your phone calls in a few minutes, but we're also live tweeting and live chatting. Our Twitter username is @PWR Show, and in the chat room here on Blog Talk Radio. Another matchup, we saw David Hero, Kane versus Mason Ryan, which saw Big Show take out CM Punk, and then the tag team champions of Big Show and Kane take out the Nexus, and really a thud, I think, over that whole thing, because I just didn't care. We've seen Big Show and Kane mow down Nexus a couple times now, and CM Punk never. Now he's relegated to just escorting Mason Ryan to the ring. It seems like the point of the match was to show Mason Ryan as a big guy. But the problem with Mason Ryan, I think, is every time he opens his mouth, people are going to not view him as a big guy or as a monster because of the accent. That's not knocking the accent. It's just a bit unusual and a bit different for fans to absorb.
Well, I think Punk's been, I wouldn't say demoted, but he's been put in the spot he's at because they're obviously trying to figure out a new contract for him. And one of the big sticking points in this new contract is that Vinnie Mac wants to own and trademark the name CM Punk. And Punk doesn't want that to happen. So maybe it's their way of just showing that him, that they still rule the world of wrestling. And who knows? I just think that they're sending Punk a message, because why would you have Big Show knock out the leader only to have two of the lower mid-card Nexus members come in and try to make the save, and then, of course, they get run off as well. This doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Poor CM Punk. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure he's getting paid pretty well, but he was in a high-profile feud with Randy Orton, and now he's, has his team in a feud with Big Show and Kane. It seems like he dropped a couple notches on the food chain in the last couple of weeks.
Santino Marella took on the new and improved Dolph Ziggler, David Hero, and I've been a Dolph Ziggler fan for quite a while. He's amazing in the ring and has an amazing amount of physical ability, and I've long said he, in my opinion, can easily be compared to Kurt Hennig, Mr. Perfect, as far as his abilities to move in the ring. He's got a flexibility that you really just don't see very often in professional wrestling. But the question that's out there, at least from my standpoint, is why the change? Why did we need a new and improved Dolph Ziggler? And what is it going to mean? Is it going to get him anywhere at all?
Well, I think by changing the hair color of Dolph Ziggler, it took the indie look off of him. You know what I mean?
Really?
With the long bleach blonde hair, and now he looks like a guy that could main event.
Really?
Looks like a guy that could be on the cover of a magazine. Yeah, I think so.
You played Smackdown versus Raw, right? You even played TNA Impact on the video game systems, right?
Sure.
You ever, you create a wrestler sometimes, and that default guy you get, doesn't that remind you of Dolph Ziggler, the new and improved Dolph Ziggler?
I just think it works for Dolph Ziggler.
Really?
I mean, he wasn't getting anywhere as the guy that was wearing, the leopard print tights and all that kind of stuff. He needed a reset.
The zipper.
And you know what the part that is frustrating, and going back to Michael Cole, is after the draft they sent some younger guys to Raw. One of them being Drew McIntyre. He wasn't on at all tonight. Not even mentioned. Why not have Dolph Ziggler work with Drew McIntyre and let one of those two guys, try to advance? Why do you got to throw out? Everyone knows Santino loses to everybody. Why use Dolph Ziggler and Santino? That doesn't help elevate Dolph Ziggler at all.
We threw a question out on our Facebook page, again, facebook.com/Pro Wrestling Report. What are your thoughts on Dolph Ziggler's new look? Better or worse than before? Justin Stein chiming in, saying much worse. At least the old blonde hair look was something sort of different rather than Randy Orton 2.0. Luke Henderson saying, I don't care what he looks like as long as he wins, which might be the most important statement of this discussion here. Jason Lang saying it was fine the way it was. Now he just kind of blends in with everyone. Just looks like a bigger Evan Bourne with that hairdo. Justin Davidson saying, usually when someone gets a haircut, their career improves. Kurt Angle, Christian, Jeff Jarrett, DDP, now Ziggler. So I can't repeat what Matthew Wright had said here, but wow, he's pretty passionate about the way Dolph Ziggler looks. And finally, Dan Janoff saying he looks like Randy Orton looked when he first came to WWE. David Harrell, do you see Dolph Ziggler? You've talked about what the look might be able to do for him, but do you think Dolph Ziggler will ever reach that threshold of being one of the top stars in WWE? Let's not forget, he was in the main event picture earlier this year, and I don't think there were many fans who were unhappy with that move, but obviously in a different place now.
I think he does have a chance, especially now with the entry to John Morrison. I think that's a spot that Dolph Ziggler could take.
Well, we'll see what happens over the course of the next few weeks. David Harrell, overall, Raw, pretty much a disappointment tonight, I think you've said, and I would tend to agree. But I also say this. You can't hit a home run every time you get up to bat. And you're going to have these Raws.
At least try to get on base.
That is true. You're saying there was no effort tonight.
No. I mean, what did you really leave with after Raw went off the air? Okay, it's an I Quit match between Cena and Miz. That was it. That's all that really stood out. And that was the last thing you saw. But I'm saying nothing else throughout the night made you say, wow, I can't wait to see what happens next week.
Very true.
Right?
Very true. No, you're dead on. Head on nail.
They want you to say, wow, I can't wait to see what happens next week. And that wasn't said. That hasn't been said in a while.
Mm-hmm. Well, tonight on WWE Tough Enough, David Harrell, we saw two eliminations. Ivelisse, however you say her name appropriately, and Eric, both gone from the show. Eric, certainly not a surprise, but a lot of people discussing the other elimination from tonight's Ivelisse, thinking that maybe she was going to go a little bit further than she did. It was an injury that caused the decision to happen. Now these two gone, leaving a handful left on Tough Enough, leading into the live Tough Enough finale in just a couple of weeks. Your thoughts on those two eliminations tonight on USA Network?
Well, Big Eric showed up not in shape. When you get a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to skip people in line to get a contract in the biggest wrestling promotion in the world, you better show up in shape and have a clue as to what you're doing. Mm-hmm. Now, with Ivy, I have been to shows in the Chicagoland area that she's been on. Her personality has rubbed some people the wrong way, but she is very talented. And if she has what it takes, believe me, with or without an injury, they'll find a spot for her. I mean, the one thing that will hurt her is her size. She's kind of built a little bit like Terry Reynolds, where she has a real small frame and her body may not be able to, take the constant punishment of a WWE ring. But those two, the three that were in the bottom three are the three that should have been there. And I wasn't surprised that any one of them were off the show tonight.
I'm surprised Eric was around as long as he did, because from week one, he proved, at least in my opinion, he just really wasn't into it, didn't really deserve to be there.
Yeah, but the thing is that you can't teach size, and they figured maybe he would have potential where he would grow into that frame of his, and unfortunately for him, that never happened.
Well, David Hero, Wednesday night, we're going to be live on 540 ESPN, our home station, with the 2-hour Pro Wrestling Report radio show. It's going to be at 10 o'clock Central Standard Time. Be sure to tune in. You can listen live right here on Blog Talk Radio. You can also listen at ESPNMilwaukee.com, and the conversation will be very, very intense, I'm sure, on Wednesday as we talk about this Sunday's this Sunday's TNA pay-per-view, Sacrifice, and so much more.
And Ken Anderson's not on the pay-per-view, huh? Man, I'm just getting screwed left and right in this fantasy thing.
And Sting's going to defend his championship. Do you hear that sound, David Hero? Cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. Sting will defend his championship, which is 40 points in the bag for me. 365.
Hey, wait a minute.
I'm set that now.
Did you see who's on the poster for TNA's pay-per-view?
Yeah, Sting.
No, it's Rob Van Dam. RVD, baby.
You need to get your eyes checked. That's Sting.
That's RVD with face paint on.
No, it's Sting.
Come on, Damian. It's 5 points going towards the good guys.
You know what's great though? You're sitting here reaching for 5 points. All right, bro. Mm-hmm. I'll just give you the 5 points. All right. If that it still puts me at 60 points ahead. If you got to start taking handouts and be in the soup line to try to get points in this draft. If that's what it's come to,
I'll take any point you want to give, because when it's all said and done, you will have said a lot more than what you've gotten done.
Wednesday night, 540 ESPN. We'll be together again on the post show after Sacrifice from TNA Wrestling, and then we're back on ESPN Radio next Monday night, David Hero. So a big week of radio and television, because primetime will be new on Friday with Be the Booker as well. So, David Hero, thanks for joining us. We're going to go to some phone calls now. And remember, we're going to identify you by your area code from which you're calling from, And when we do that, please tell us your name and the city and state that you're calling from. Again, your name and city and state that you're calling from. And before we get to a couple phone calls here, do us a favor as you're listening to this show on Blog Talk Radio. Please mark and follow this show. Use the follow link and follow the show so you never miss an episode of the Pro Wrestling Report here on Blog Talk Radio. Again, thank you so much for making us consistently one of the top sports shows on all of Blog Talk Radio, and currently and for the last several days, we've been the number one sports talk show on all of Blog Talk Radio, so we appreciate that. Couldn't do it without you guys. Let's go to our first caller, who is calling us from the 614 area code. Caller from the 614. You're live. What's your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Adam, and I'm from Columbus, Ohio.
Adam from Columbus. What did you think of WWE RAW tonight?
I thought Raw was okay. I guess the real problem I had with it wasn't so much the R-Truth comments as it was Michael Cole's comments about Jerry Lawler's mom and it being so close to Mother's Day, I kind of understand why they did it, but it wasn't necessary. That Cole has gotten heat before using Lawler's family, and I understand that, but that just was one shot too many.
You know, I would tend to agree with you, Adam. That was the line was crossed, but again, we've seen it happen so many times in professional wrestling. What's different here, in my opinion, is this is still very new, very fresh, very close to home, and I'm very happy that my mother is still with us, but I couldn't imagine having lost your mother, whether she was sick or whether it was sudden or whatever, and then the day after Mother's Day to be on national television in front of 10,000 people and have that brought up and thrown in your face. Whether Jerry agreed to it or not, the fact that it was even considered and allowed to happen is a bit of a challenging thing for me to grasp. And, hopefully after Over the Limit when this match happens, clearly Jerry Lawler's not giving up his Hall of Fame ring. Clearly he's not going to induct Michael Cole into the Hall of Fame. Jerry Lawler should win this matchup in the feud, make it all go away, and let's get back to focusing on the in-ring talents and the stars. Put Zack Ryder in a match. Put Daniel Bryan in a match. And I know he's on Smackdown now, but what the point I'm making is give your wrestlers, your in-ring performers time. And I say this while realizing that Michael Cole is a great on-screen character. Let's not lose that point. Michael Cole's a great on-screen character. I just don't know if the ratio of time being given to him is fair to those talents who we don't even see on TV.
You know, I tend to agree with you about that. It just seems like they're putting so much time and effort into a storyline people have just stopped caring about. And another thing I wanted to ask you a question. I read in an interview that John Cena had done with an internet site, and he commented on Edge's retirement. And what he said about Edge's retirement was what stuck out to me, that if this was the 1980s, Edge would still be out there wrestling. And when I hear that and couple that with the stories about how severe some of Edge's injuries were, I just want to get your comment. How much has that aspect, in your opinion, has the business changed to where guys are now starting to walk away to where 25, 30 years ago they wouldn't?
Yeah, thank you very much for that call, Adam from Mount Columbus. You know, the Edge situation is I think, it turned out to be as good as it could have turned out to be. And if you had a chance to listen to MVP's interview with Dave Lagana of I Want Wrestling, you heard him talk about that and talk about how WWE has become so corporate and how WWE has become not about wrestling but about entertainment. While you may not agree with that or like that, you do know or do get from that more of an attention to their performers. And whether it be the wellness policy or getting checked out on a more regular basis from a healthcare standpoint, keep in mind none of that existed in the 80s. You were hurt, you were expected to work. And I'm not saying that doesn't happen now, but WWE has shown compassion when they could for their stars. And this was a situation where, they found out early enough, but Edge has had surgery on his neck and knew coming out of that last surgery that he was going to have some long-term issues. But the right decision was made because the information was there, and it's the structure of WWE that allows them to identify these things early on and address them. Again, Adam from Columbus, thank you very much for that call. Let's go to a caller calling us from the 646 area code. Caller, what's your name and where are you calling from?
Is that it?
Caller from 646, what's your name?
Hi, my name is Brady. I'm from Brooklyn. I just had a comment and a question. First comment is I'm looking at the Sacrifice poster, and I believe, I'm 99% sure that's Rob Van Dam and Sting.
No, it's Sting.
I don't know if you guys would share them, but it looks like it's both of them kind of together.
Sharing is not anything I'm interested in. It's Sting.
Well, in that case, rock, paper, scissors solves all. My question,
very true.
my question is involving Zack Ryder. I heard you mention it before, but I just want to know a little more of your feelings about him and if you think, unfortunately, he might end up in the release list when it comes probably in a few weeks Personally, to me, I think he's one of the most underrated talents in WWE.
Thank you for that call, Brady out in Brooklyn. I got to say this about Zack Ryder. I think this is if I'm wrong, I will be the first to admit it, but it only happens once a year, so I doubt it's going to be on this. But if you watch Zack Ryder's videos, which are great on YouTube, by the way, very clever, very well done, it's, how do I phrase this? It's difficult for me to think that Zack Ryder is the sole person behind this campaign for Zack Ryder. I want, and I'm starting our own campaign, I want to get Zack Ryder on this program, on our ESPN radio show, and I want to talk to him because he is a great talent. And what he's doing, if this is indeed him alone, what he's doing is creating his own brand, making himself more valuable. He is stepping up. A lot of comments always come up about creative and people blaming the writers and people blaming the bookers for things. But what you got to realize, too, is in addition to their in-ring abilities, these talents have to step up. Stone Cold Steve Austin stepped up. Remember, he was the ringmaster. He was a Hollywood blonde before all that. But until Stone Cold Steve Austin asked to be given the ball and to run with it after showing the abilities he had, that's when he became Stone Cold Steve Austin and one of the top guys, if not the top draw in the history of the business. Zack Ryder's doing the same thing. He's not sitting back waiting for somebody else to do it for him. He is putting himself out there, and he is making his brand and building his brand and making himself known worldwide. And for that, I definitely commend him. And again, we want to get Zack Ryder on this show, so we're going to be contacting WWE to try to get that done, but we're also going to reach out to Zack directly and see if he can give us some time to address all of you great fans out there who certainly want to hear what he has to say. We've got a lot of you waiting on hold. We want to thank Brady from Brooklyn for that last call. We've got a lot of you waiting on hold and a lot of conversation in the chat room here at here at Blog Talk Radio. Want to remind all of you that we are going to be live on 540 ESPN this Wednesday night, 11 o'clock Eastern, 10 o'clock Central Standard Time. You have to excuse me a little. I lost my voice over the weekend, so I'm trying to bear with it here. But we're going to be live on 540 ESPN. We're going to be taking your phone calls during that show as well. We only have about 2 minutes remaining in the show here, so we're not going to be able to get to all of you waiting on hold, but you can give us a call Wednesday during our ESPN radio show. And remember, we're going to be live after TNA Sacrifice on pay-per-view with the post show and then back on ESPN Radio next Monday night again. So I know our schedule can be a bit confusing at times. Just check our website, pwrshow.com, pwrshow.com, for all the latest on our broadcast schedule. An eventful Raw tonight, but a Raw that disappointed many, but that set up WWE's Over the Limit pay-per-view. The Miz versus John Cena in an I Quit match, and Jerry Lawler, one last time, I hope at least, with Michael Cole in a matchup. It even hurts to say that, really, guys, but be that as it may, thank you for keeping us the number one sports show, most popular sports show on Blog Talk Radio. Be sure to follow us on Twitter. Our Twitter username is @PWR Show, @PWR Show on Twitter, and also on Facebook, facebook.com/PWR, Pro Wrestling Report, facebook.com/Pro Wrestling Report. See, that's why I need Linda here. She's got all this stuff memorized and can just whip it right out. Thank you so much for tuning in to the show here on Blog Talk Radio, and we will see you Wednesday night on 540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com. Thanks so much, everybody.